Get connected, Fitchburg. We're launching Fitchburg Connect, the city's new monthly e-newsletter that keeps you informed about all the events, services, and updates that matter to you. Get it in your inbox once a month. Our first edition is live now. Sign up today to get Fitchburg Connect.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Is that on air or no?
Yeah, we're good.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Fitchburg Common Council meeting for May 19, 2026. The first thing is to call to the order to the meeting. Please stand up to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag is over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So next is roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Rada
Here.
Alder Dancer Jr. is delayed. Alder Gerhardt. Here. Alder Herbst.
Here.
Alder Jetzer.
Here.
Alder Lattice.
Here.
Alder Lepper.
Here.
Alder Maldonado.
Here.
Alder Reichstad.
Here.
We do have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so next, item 4, public appearance for non-agenda items. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak for non-agenda item? Seeing none, we move to item 5, new business. This is a direct referral, a resolution R-108-26 and Plan Commission Resolution PCR 0326, consideration and action of the amendment, tax incremental District 17, boundaries and project plan, Fitchburg, Wisconsin, and it was approved in Plan Commission. So I don't know who's gonna start with. Greg? Can you introduce yourself? Oh, I am confused because you're exactly from Plan Commission.
I'll move approval of resolution R-108-26.
We do it differently then. Okay.
Good evening, Greg Johnson from Ellers. We work with city staff on the proposed project plan amendment. You received a copy of the full project plan in your packet. We have a summary presentation that you also received. This will highlight the key findings in the project plan. Just some background information on TID district number 17. This is an existing TID district that was created back in 2023. And this amendment accomplishes two objectives. First, it adds territory to the district. On the map, you'll see there are 4 parcels that are shaded in pink. Those are the proposed parcels to be added to the district. And the second purpose of the amendment is to update project costs to allow for an increase in eligible project expenses within the TID district. When this TID district was created, it was a rehabilitation TID district with at least 50% of the area meeting the statutory definition of an area in need of rehabilitation or conservation. So just a quick reminder on how tax incremental finance districts work. When a TIF district is created, all of the parcels have an existing value. That's called the base value. All the taxing jurisdictions, the city, county, school district, technical college, all continue to collect their share of tax revenue on that existing value. As the value increases over time, either due to appreciation or more likely new development or redevelopment, the city retains all of the taxes collected on that increase in value, called the incremental value, and uses it to pay for expenditures within the district. When a TIF district is created or amended, one of the statutory requirements that has to be satisfied is what's called the 12% valuation test. So what that means is the existing incremental value of all TID districts in the city, plus, in this case, the existing value of the 4 parcels proposed to be added through the territory amendment, Those two numbers combined cannot exceed 12% of the city's total equalized value. So if we take the incremental value of the city's existing TIDs, add in the current value of the 4 parcels proposed to be added, that is 6.29% of the city's total equalized value. So what that means is legally the city can continue to create new TIF districts as it deems necessary and can also add territory to existing districts. So you're under that 12% maximum threshold. When the TID district is amended, we still have to reaffirm the rehabilitation finding. When the TID district was created, there were approximately 185 gross acres within the district. 147 of those were deemed to meet the criteria of an area in need of rehabilitation. By adding these 4 parcels, the gross acreage of the district increases to approximately 230 acres. About 192 of those are deemed to meet the rehabilitation criteria. So that means 83% of the gross acreage meets the statutory criteria of area in need of rehabilitation, which is well over the minimum threshold of 50%. The majority of these parcels being added fall under condition number 1, carrying out plans for a program of voluntary or compulsory repair of rehabilitation of buildings or other improvements. The 4 parcels being added have historically been a quarry operation, so the purpose of the amendment is to redevelop those sites into higher, more productive uses. For background information, we've included the original list of project costs that were included in the project plan when TID 17 was created back in 2023. There were a total of about $24,538,000 of eligible project costs identified when the TID was created. When a project plan is created or amended and you identify specific types of projects that could be undertaken, by approving the TIF district, it doesn't unilaterally approve any of these project costs. All of them still require approval by the city council. Any development incentive requires a development agreement between the city and the developer. So the project plan list identifies what is legally a TID eligible expenditure. What you choose to implement and spend money on is decided over the maximum life of the district. So no changes are proposed to this original project list. It's just incorporated for reference.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
May things be added to this list? May they be amended if the council prefers to do that?
Yes, so within the project plan, both the original project plan and this proposed amendment, so we're going to add some specific projects through this amendment, which I'll speak to in a moment. But the plans also give you some flexibility to move money between project costs. So using this original plan list as an example, you have the $24,538,000 of expenditure authority. You can move money between these specific projects or similar types of projects as you see fit without amending the plan. So while the plan gives some specific examples of what you could do, you do have flexibility to move money between projects without amending the plan. We included for reference the original location, the original project proposed improvement map from the project plan. This is from the 2023 document. The letters that are identified within the project map correspond back to that project list of just where some of the project-specific improvements were located. Other projects fall within the overall boundary of the district, like development incentives. The hatched red area is the half-mile radius boundary. There were some projects in the original plan, and we'll speak to the amendment list here in a moment, that fall within the half-mile radius. Those have to be called out because they require specific approval by the Joint Review Board. So for this proposed amendment, since we're adding some new area and territory to the district, it stands to reason there's some specific costs that may be incurred within that area. So we are increasing the eligible project cost through this amendment. So this is the second half of the purpose of the amendment. So here's the detailed listing of the estimated project cost allowances within the amended area. It's $25,395,000 of total costs. You'll see there's some specific infrastructure improvements contemplated, and then there are some allowances for development incentives. Same comment I made about the original project list applies to this list as well. Just by approving the amendment and these listing of costs. You're not committing to undertaking any of these costs. That will require future action by the Common Council. But then on the far right-hand side, it identifies where in the financial analysis we've shown these projects could be supported based on the financial performance of the district. Then we've included a map that shows the location of some of the specific infrastructure projects that were identified in that amended project list. So you'll see the letters identified in the pink area correspond back to that specific project list of costs that are being added. One of the requirements in the project plan amendment is a financial analysis that projects the future performance of the TIF district. We've taken a conservative look at the performance of the district, not only for its ability to handle the current list of project costs in the original project plan, but also a lot of the proposed costs in the amended area. So in terms of our valuation projections, the increase in value, the value that's been certified by the Department of Revenue is as of January 1st of 2025. We have that value that's already there factored into our financial pro forma. And then we've also estimated the increase in value from 2 developments anticipated within the amended number 1 territory. We've projected no additional appreciation of those values and no additional development beyond those projects anticipated to be constructed. In terms of the tax revenue, or what's referred to as the tax increment, the current tax rate for this TID district is $18.97 per thousand. We've conservatively showed that the TID tax rate would continue to decline at a rate of 0.75% annually. In the cash flow model, what it illustrates is if the project costs identified in the original plan, as well as those project costs identified in the amendment, are phased based on development occurring and as cash is generated, those project costs can be supported with cash from the district and wouldn't necessarily require additional borrowing to fund those improvements. So the projected closure in this illustration is in 2034. There are allowances in both the original project plan and the amended project plan for some additional development incentives that could be awarded if there's development that would support those incentives. So that could change this forecast. If some additional development occurs that requires an incentive, there would be revenue and cost to offset each other, but this kind of shows what is anticipated based on what we know at this time. So this provides a little more detail of what I just summarized. So in the far left-hand column is the existing incremental value that's been generated since the district was created, about $7,733,000 of value. And then we have the estimated increase in value from a proposed retail development on the southern portion of parcel 45 added to the district. And then there's multifamily development on the northern portion of that parcel. So that's projected to have a value, the multifamily of about $50 million and the retail of about $17,229,000. So that's the only value increases that we factored into this financial analysis. So if that incremental value of about $74.9 million would be generated and constructed through 2027 over the life of the district, that would generate about $30,167,000 of tax increment revenue over the 27-year maximum life of the district. So this cash flow model is an illustration of how the district could support additional project costs. Again, just based on that existing incremental value and the value from the 2 proposed developments within the amended area. So that tax increment revenue from the prior chart is the main revenue stream to this TIF district. It's anticipated that a development incentive would be necessary for some extraordinary costs related to the retail development. We show that capped at $2 million of pay-as-you-go incentive paid out from increment generated from that project that will be subject to a development agreement approved by the City Council. And then in that capital outlay column in the 2 project charts, I showed when they would be funded in the cash flow projection. That capital outlay really encompasses all the infrastructure projects in the original project list and all the specific infrastructure projects in the amended list could be funded with cash if phased appropriately. And then there's some allowances for professional services and ongoing administrative costs. So really with that anticipated increase in value within the amended area of the district kind of occurring, fairly early in the life of this district. It was just created in 2023. That's really providing a strong financial infusion into the district to help support project costs. So the city is key to strong management financially of its TIF districts, which it has done over the years, is to match the pace of investment with the pace of development. So this really illustrates that concept. As that new value gets constructed over the next 3 to 4 years, that generates a healthy revenue stream that can support cash investment of project costs. So really all the specific infrastructure projects were undertaken, and just based on the incremental value from these two projects, those costs could be paid off by 2034. Again, if there's additional development and additional costs, that could change this forecast.
Before you move on from this, this was a slide that I was hoping you could give us a little more explanation on. So a couple of things. So you said 2034 would be the projected closure of the TID. Up until this afternoon or yesterday or something, I thought the closure of the TID was, 27 years in the future or something. What does closure mean?
So closure means, so in this column where it's highlighted in 2034, in this cumulative column, that's the projected fund balance in the district. So by 2034, the fund balance at the end of the year is projected to be about $822,000. The remaining liabilities outstanding, which in this case would be development incentives, are $653,000. So it's when revenues exceed expenditures remaining. If you undertook no other project costs in the district, statutorily you're required to close the district. So the district can remain open for 27 years. So if you add other project costs, you could certainly undertake them. This just shows if everything that was identified as an eligible expense was funded, you could pay those off by 2034.
Okay. So that helps. And then I think there was verbiage in there that said something about the last remaining liabilities. But I saw that, there's still something in the liabilities column out to 2036. But you just explained revenues exceeded, so
you
it's a
would pay
wash.
those off early, correct.
And then I wanted to also draw attention to that dashed line at 2045, which is, so we're talking about, roughly $25.5 million of total TIF money at play. And that dashed line, as of that date, it will have raised that amount of money?
So 2045 is when the expenditure period ends for this TIF district. So that's a statutory date that is always 5 years before the end of the maximum life of any district. So what that means is prior to the end of the expenditure period, the city needs to make its final commitments for new capital outlay projects or development incentives. Once you kind of go past that expenditure period, you can't really statutorily undertake any new project costs. It's kind of a cutoff date for all TID districts. So before the end of that expenditure period, either the city needs to have signed contracts in place to complete any remaining project costs, needs to set aside cash in an escrow account to pay from the TID district to pay for those remaining project costs, or if you issue debt and amortize that over the remaining life of the district, you can still pay debt service. You just have to essentially have a financial commitment for those projects before the end of the expenditure period.
So the fact that after 2045, we essentially have generated revenue equivalent to the $25.5 million that we're going to spend is just coincidental.
Yeah, so really by 2045, we're projecting that the fund balance would be, if the TID remain open, $13.8 million. So this cumulative balance after 2034, if you wanted to continue to take on other projects or amended the plan to take on other project costs, that represents kind of the fund balance drain that you would have to support additional project costs. But that would likely necessitate an additional amendment because in this analysis, you've completed everything other than maybe some additional pay-as-you-go development incentives.
You're done with your presentation?
Yeah, so just the summary, just to kind of wrap up the key points that I've summarized. So again, the amendment is twofold. First, adding territory to the district. You get up to 4 boundary amendments per TIF district. So it's either adding territory or subtracting territory. So this is the first of 4 boundary amendments. And then second, we're doing what's called a project plan amendment where we're updating the project costs. There's no statutory limit on the number of times you can do a project plan amendment. Again, from a financial perspective, the existing value within the TID plus the projected value from the two developments can, over the next couple of years, can support all project costs in the original area and the amended area with appropriate phasing. Additional development opportunities certainly exist elsewhere within the district that may require some additional investment, but we're just kind of trying to show the potential of what the district can support, really with some larger valued projects here early on in the TID district. It again provides that nice financial infusion which helps the projected financial performance of the TID.
Talking about those two properties, they aren't, no TID is going to those two big apartments, so.
Correct.
Correct. Clear about that.
That's correct.
Well,
We don't know yet.
well, the first building isn't in the TID.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The first one is not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, I was.
But
The one that's
the
up. is-
developer on the second one hasn't requested.
No.
The only thing he's inquired about is when we were doing the pilot project for the workforce within market rate, he just asked for information on that, which I sent to him, but he hasn't given any indication yet, at least. But we do have some language in there that if he would, that we would revisit that or have that as a separate conversation.
Thank you.
I also want to mention that Jeffrey Handley is here. He's the developer, one of the parcel over there. So if you have questions, he's here to answer some of your questions too. So Jeff is there. Okay. So that's it, Greg? Or,
I have nothing further.
okay. So I open to questions.
I was wondering if Mike wants to add anything to the conversation.
I'm excited about the opportunity here. You know, this is kind of our historical remnant of our township days and a reclamation of one of those quarries where the urban service area has grown up around it. And so I think we've got a great opportunity here to bring some retail and commercial services and some additional housing to Fitchburg. And I'm excited that we can work with Jeff to get these projects in the ground and get them building permits and keep everything moving forward and add more to the tax base. And I think we've been very strategic here as far as keeping the first apartment building out of it, keeping the 4 lots across the front with those users out of the district, and then very strategically using the infield where the Winger plant is to get over to the lot that would have the retail center and the other apartment buildings. So I think we're being good strategic stewards of keeping some things on the rolls for the general levy while using this as a catalyst to drive this project that has some extraordinary costs.
So Mike, you know, when they had a list of the things in the amendment, though, this one, we're looking at that $2 million one on there is kind of the one we're considering here.
Yes. And that's for 3 extraordinary costs, which would be excess soil to be trucked off the site if need be, the retaining wall, and then also the undergrounding of the stormwater, which allows us to do more intensive development on the site. So those are the 3 extraordinary cost bucket items.
Thank you for that.
But it's all based off of actuals in the end,
Understood.
as far as the expenditures.
And I think we are being proactive in the future if, you know, Winger closes, you know what I mean, and that parcel is already ready to go, you know what I mean. We don't need to go and recreate and amend the TIF. We already been proactive with that parcel.
That's a good point, Madam
Yeah.
Mayor.
Yes.
And then just for the new alders as well, like since it's been a while since we've done a TID, the PAYGO model means that the developer gets paid on the back end if the tax increment is created. So if for some reason the tax increment is not what we anticipate it would be, that value of that incentive would go down. So it protects the city from, you know, costs associated with something that didn't pan out, for lack of a better term. So that's how we do TIDs traditionally, and it works really well and protects the city's investment. And then just in my personal opinion, anyone that's driven by that area can see pretty clearly that there's some extraordinary costs associated with the development of that area. It always was going to be kind of complicated site, so I trust that this is a good move for us.
Greg, can you explain, because in the joint review board, it was a good question from the Verona School District about those parcels. that they wanted, why do we need to keep those parcels in the TID?
Yeah, so there's a handful of parcels in the current boundary of the TID district that are owned by Verona schools. So they mentioned that at the initial joint review board meeting, they didn't feel strongly whether those parcels remain in the TID or not. But the most common reason that tax exempt parcels may be added to a boundary of a TID district is because the TID boundary has to be contiguous. So that's why those parcels were in the original TID in the first place, was to make sure we had a contiguous boundary. So they'll remain. They don't generate any incremental value, but they're needed to have a contiguous boundary.
Gabriella, just as a follow-up to your comment, one of the next steps that will come, hopefully if we get a successful vote tonight, is the TIF developer agreement with the Ehlers analysis, specifically for the terms of the deal with Jeff and Colbert Huntley there. So our timing on that is we would refer it out at the June 9th council meeting, and then it would come to Finance and Council for consideration on June 23rd. And then if that all went well, then the Joint Review Board would take final action on the TID amendment on June 24th. So that's kind of the sequence of things.
I have Logan and you, okay?
Okay, just a couple things here. Mike, I think you might be best on this. You touched on it a little bit already. Could you kind of go through how the surgical approach to which parcels are in and which are not was done? I'm curious why the new multifamily apartment building is in, and then the 4 lots, the commercial lots fronting the key are not. I'm just genuinely curious how the lines were drawn here.
Well, the existing district is the blue on the map there, and the parcels, in order, they need to be contiguous to be added to the district. So that's why we used what we call the infield, where the Winger plant is that those connecting parcels. And then to get over to the larger parcel lot number 45 there, to get to where the retail center and where the second multifamily building would be. But we decided to leave the current multifamily building that's taking occupancy right now out of the district, so that stays on the general levy fund there. And then the 4 across the front too, we wanted to leave out of the district, so that goes right to the general levy, and there was not going to be any kind of extraordinary costs or expenses associated with those 4 across the front. So we thought this struck a good balance, and as the mayor also pointed out, with bringing those lots in the infield in the district now, if something happens, if there's a decision at some point in the future with the Winger operations there, those parcels are already in the district, and we're positioned to move quickly if something happens, although there's been no communication or indication that is anytime imminent here, just to be transparent about that. We're not anticipating anything.
You read my mind. That was my next question. The other question I had then, since that one was answered, was what conditions, if any, can we put on the development incentive? I guess, is it written in such a way that the city can say a specific business A must be delivered in order to get this $2 million development incentive? Of the businesses that are proposed or could be in this retail facility, there's one in particular that is a higher value to the community from a desire perspective than others. So I don't want to say we'll give you $2 million if you build this building and then a Dollar Tree goes in instead. So is that predicated on, and I love Dollar Tree, so that's not a dig on Dollar Tree, but I think the community would be more excited about other businesses in that space. So can we predicate that $2 million on a specific business opening, and if so, within a certain period of time, i.e. if we're looking at 27 and the building hasn't taken occupancy by 12/31/27, we're only giving you 1.5 million or something. Are those options on the table for us?
I think that'll be addressed in the developer agreement when we bring that forward. There will be more specificity within that document.
And at this point in time, we're really only discussing the amendment to the TID.
Yeah.
And that would be, as Mike mentioned, a further conversation when a developer agreement is formally drafted and then submitted for common council approval or consideration, shall I say, ideally approval, which, as Mike mentioned, would be June 9th for the referral and then action on the 23rd.
But to your point, we're planning to have that level of specificity within that.
Okay.
That Eller's analysis and also in that document.
Okay, because I'm just gonna be transparent, this whole thing, everything hinges on that for me. If that business is not involved, I'm a no, so.
That's another question. Okay, Joe, and then you, Donna? Okay.
So looking through the project types, I mean, they make sense, particularly the addition of sidewalks and a bike path makes sense for the neighborhood. I know you and I have talked about that for years. Wondering, and just clarifying, if we needed to, like, if we wanted to add projects in the future because we see some sort of community need for it, that's something that doesn't have that 4-time limit. Like if we were to say, oh, we need, just making something, we need a subway, whatever. So like, I'm using an extreme example.
Like a restaurant
I don't wanna
subway
get-
or like
No,
a subway?
like an underground subway, yeah. That's a joke. So we would be able to at some point kind of revisit that and say there's a need to add this thing. Let's
Yeah,
add
so
this to
within the project plan and within, which mirrors language and state statute, there's general types of project costs that are eligible. And so the plan, again, gives you some flexibility to move money between common project expenses, which covers any general public infrastructure, streets, utilities. There's other language within this project plan that's specific to projects that Fitchburg wanted to see undertaken when the district was created. So you have some flexibility there to manage the total project amounts that listed.
Yeah.
But you know, it's kind of a judgment call when, you know, certainly in this case, when you're adding territory and there's specific costs within that area, it makes sense to amend the plan to add those costs. So we write the plan to try to give enough flexibility that you don't have to do an amendment every time something changes, and the Joint Review Board has been receptive to that because they understand this is a 27-year maximum life TID. You're not gonna know all your plans for the next 27 years. So yeah, you have some flexibility, but yeah, there's the kind of judgments when you're maybe looking to go beyond what's already in the plan, but you have general flexibility.
One other thing on that, Joe, is you know, the retail center, the development incentive for that is based purely off the valuation of the retail center, because ours are all performance-based and specific for that project. But the other reason that we included the apartment building was to give us additional capacity to pay for those other project costs, infrastructure items like the sidewalks and some of the things that are in there. So that's gonna generate the valuation and increment to help us pay for those items, especially as we get closer to when the school comes forward.
Yeah.
You know, those are gonna be critical infrastructure items. So that gives us some capacity.
Absolutely. And just adding something that Alder Jetzer's brought up, as well as Bike and Ped Commission, as we think about our new apartment buildings and developments in particular, like having a B-cycle station and whenever we can is
Yeah, but those one are, that one should be funded with other type of, I wouldn't amend the TIF to include a B-cycle, you know, station there. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? We're talking about $25,000. You know, I don't think that is, you know, we should use levy or we use other type of money instead of, you know. This is my personal opinion, I don't know, but I wouldn't amend the TIF for those, for one or two of those, yeah.
Well,
Done.
Administrative Director, Mrs. Zimmerman, one more time, it's responding to, like, can you say what you said in response to Alder Rickstad's question again, the second one, around what we're voting on tonight and its relation to what can potentially come into space in the future? One more time.
Tonight, we're voting on the amendment
Yeah.
of the project plan, not only territory, but also the project costs.
Okay.
So it's a two-part amendment
Right.
For that. The next step in the process will be, we'll be bringing forward the developer agreement with the terms of the TID deal specifically for the retail project with Colburn Hunley and Jeff Hunley, who's here this evening. Okay. And then council will take action on that developer agreement. And then the final action by the Joint Review Board to officially approve the project plan amendment is on Wednesday, June 24th. But we'll be bringing that developer agreement the night before, on Tuesday, June 23rd. And then to Logan's specific question there, we plan to include language in that developer agreement and the deal there about it's contingent upon a specific user being part of the retail center.
Gotcha. Does that answer your question?
Okay, any other question, comments? Bill?
So I've got a list of bits of language that I would like to see possibly changed.
Okay.
Could you pull up section 6 from the larger packet?
Which page is that one? 6, is it?
Section 6, yeah.
33, or 32, or 57, or 33, I don't know. So many.
So if you scroll down to acquisition of rights of way, well, I guess there's a bunch of places where it references sidewalks, and I guess I would just like to see that say sidewalks, comma, multi-use paths, just so that we have the option, wherever we say, you know, sidewalk, we could do a path, or vice versa.
Where is that?
So basically increasing flexibility in language so that.
Right, so all of these sections say, you know, eligible costs include but are not limited to, but I would rather see the multi-use paths in there as, you know, explicitly
Where is the sidewalk? I don't find sidewalk.
acquisition of rights of way. The city may need to acquire property to allow for the installation of streets, driveways, sidewalks, and I want to include multi-use paths, utilities, stormwater management practices, and other public infrastructure.
Yeah.
And there are several places. So it says that under acquisitions, acquisition of rights of way, acquisition of easements, street improvements, streetscaping and landscaping. So basically, if you just search for sidewalks, in almost every instance, sidewalks, comma, multi-use paths would be the language that I'm looking for.
And would include in that, I'm assuming should it not be included later on? It's not like a whole process to go through to add that. Like, I'm assuming you want bike paths is why you want the extra language and add it, right? So,
Right.
Okay.
And like I said, every section says not limited to, but if, you know, I'd rather have it out in people's faces.
I get what you're saying.
Are you okay with that, everyone?
Yeah.
Do I need to make a formal?
Just
No,
my,
it's just in the-
my one question
Yeah.
around that, I have no problem with that conceptually. Is it a problem that the plan commission did not pass that?
No, but this one is here, in this packet.
You can make changes.
I just want to make sure it's not one of
And
the
it's-
conditions where we have-
This is not an amendment to the comp plan.
Just want to make sure
So
that
this
we
doesn't-
that's,
Yeah.
okay.
We have the ultimate authority
Yeah,
as
we can-
council, yeah.
And we aren't delaying the process by having to re-refer it or send it back
Yeah,
anyways.
we are adding.
Do we vote on that, or can that be a friendly amendment, or?
And I'm not done yet, so I don't.
Okay.
Well,
Well, we probably should handle it one by
We're
one.
rewriting the whole document, we
You
just.
only get one.
And I'll have to tell Joe and Gabriella what the other things are.
Okay, what is the next one?
Amended, or can be a friendly amendment?
Well, wait until he's done with
Well,
his
but,
list.
should we handle them one by one? Because if we're gonna vote on them.
I don't know what he's gonna say, so let's wait and see.
I'll drop a few bombs.
Okay.
So the next one is, in two of those places that talk about sidewalks, I would like to see, so under street improvements, sidewalks, bicycle lanes, and multi-use paths would be a section to add the multi-use paths, and then also bicycle share stations, and then the same thing under streetscaping and landscaping. So, Madam Mayor, I think making the initial installation of bicycle share stations a TID eligible expense explicitly, I think would be great. And then we can talk about using levy to pay for annual operating and maintenance costs.
So where are you where is that? Under what?
Still under section 6, there's street improvements and
Page
streetscaping
17.
and landscaping.
Page 17, first paragraph.
Oh, here, okay.
I would tell you to hit Control F, but you're working on physical paper like a barbarian. installation of sidewalks and bicycle lanes.
6 lots, yeah.
So, including in that section about sidewalks and bicycle lanes would be
Yeah.
my earlier suggestion of multi-use paths, and then in addition, bicycle share stations.
Installation of bicycle share stations.
Correct.
Is that a street improvement, or would that go in, wouldn't it go on probably the property that's being developed?
Yeah, I guess that's open to interpretation, right? So maybe that's only under streetscaping and landscaping?
How do we go?
I don't know.
But this bicycle thing wouldn't be on the street though,
Right, but the bike share station, the docks and the bikes themselves.
Okay.
Sometimes they're on private property and sometimes
Yeah.
they're on
Right.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm just wondering if you wanna add it to
Out of both.
somewhere where, yeah, it would be on private property, because the street improvements and the streetscaping and landscaping would only be public property, right?
But would that include putting the bike share station in the right of way? Off of the street but inside the right of way?
It would, I'm just saying it would not include, like, if you wanna provide a developer an incentive to put it, next to the entrance of the building they're building, it would not include that.
That wouldn't be up there.
It would not be on there.
No.
That would have to be part of it.
It would have to be somewhere else, yeah.
That would be a development incentive.
Which could be considered for the development.
So we're not dealing with that now, we deal with that when we
Alright,
get to that
yeah.
point. Yeah.
If it's on private property.
Okay, so what are you gonna do? So,
Well, I was only confused after Micah started talking. Can you help clarify, what is your suggestion then?
No, I agree, if it could be part of the developer agreement and still abide by this, then that's fine.
Okay.
We put it here and then later
As an
we
option.
put it there when we get to developer agreements.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Is this boilerplate language? Like, this is just standard TID language that we use?
This has been modified for city, customized for
Okay,
the city.
so we
in
could
the past.
potentially modify this for future TID documents as well,
yeah,
to kind
because
of
they
create more
talk about
flexibility.
grade crossing and bridges and.
Yeah.
Horse and buggies.
A subway.
Yeah, the subway, no. We'll
Okay,
put it-
so we are
I
gonna.
have two more.
Okay, go ahead.
If you scroll down, there's a section called projects outside the tax increment district, and it talks about an 8-foot sidewalk between the along the north side of McKee, between the western city limits and Fitchrona. And now if you whiplash back to the map showing the half-mile boundaries, that's the one that's got drawing of a multi-use path along the western edge.
Where is, I need to see it to understand what you're
Yeah.
trying to say.
You wanna see the verbiage or do you wanna see the map?
No, the map.
Yeah, okay, so, we just passed it, the other one. There. So the blue lines that form a right angle on the left-hand side in the center of the red, that's a new multi-use path. Thank you, Donald.
Oh, that one.
And then, actually, stand back up, Donald. You see Fitchrona Road there? Which is the next road to the right? Nope. Oh, yeah, there you go, that guy, the curve, all the way down. There's gonna be a multi-use path along there as well. So on McKee Road, between those 2 points, why would we be talking about putting a sidewalk instead of connecting those 2 multi-use paths with another multi-use path?
So
Yes.
That's the green line?
Mike, if I
Because-
Can we
recall
scroll, can we
correctly,
zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit more?
Mike, if I recall correctly, based upon the grades of the Wingra site that's being developed as part of this project, the blue line is no longer feasible, is that correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah, so that path is no longer feasible to go
Oh,
in.
okay.
There will be a multi-use path that goes in on Fitchrona itself. I forget whether that's I think that's on the west side of the road and is going in as part of these development projects. So then that left the city staff discussing the width of the path or sidewalk on the north side between the 2 points that you identified. And because that blue path is no longer feasible, and because of the grades as you get into the city of Madison to the west, it does not appear to be feasible from our assessment of the grades to the west that a sidewalk or path is going to be feasible to be implemented by the city of Madison. So staff felt that a sidewalk was the most appropriate.
Okay, so
There'd be no continuation beyond
Right, yeah,
Fitchburg.
it dead ends, yeah. Makes
so
sense.
that, are you talking, when you said the blue line, are you talking about the north-south section or the whole thing?
The whole thing.
Because that blue part on top is just an imaginary line. Like it's not like a straight, right?
Yeah, that's
Right.
the
So
property.
that's interesting, because I don't remember reading about this until this packet, and I thought, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I think that was part of the Anton Drive redevelopment study, the redevelopment plan, had a bike path or multi-use path in that location, which obviously was utilized to help draft the original project plan back in '23. But obviously now that we've actually got somebody developing this parcel or this area, it's been determined that it's not feasible to get that in there because of grades and setbacks and buffers with residential areas and so forth.
So it's not gonna be a connection between, south and north there, between King James neighborhood or that area with the, you know what I mean?
Correct. There's.
Yeah, there's,
You would walk
it's
down.
very steep.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
you'd walk down King James to
We can do a
Anton
stair.
and then up.
Stairway. Come on,
A
Bill.
bike
What's that?
stairway?
What's that stairway?
Escalator?
Yeah.
Okay, so my last one, I saved the
Okay.
controversial one for last.
Okay.
Greg, if I could have you scroll back to section 6 again. Or just hit Control F and look for section 6. Actually, there's a section in there on gas service. And given that we just passed a sustainability plan and we've got goals of, reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and everything, I would rather that we not subsidize further greenhouse gas emissions.
What do you mean?
I don't want gas service to be a TID eligible expense.
Oh. What is it, gas
Can I weigh in on this?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
I disagree, Bill, and we are a northern climate. And our homes, it's the most efficient, I realize you're for an all electric home, but that electricity is being generated by gas-fired plants. And so I just feel natural gas is the cleanest fuel in the history of mankind for keeping our cities cleaner. We've had no fuel prior to that.
Solar, wind?
Prior to that, wind is not consistent. Prior to that,
Batteries?
I'd like to finish. Prior to that, cities, they burned coal, they burned wood, they burned anything they had, and cities were filthy and horrible. And they also burned fuel oil. And natural gas, produces carbon dioxide, I'll give you that, but it's the cleanest fuel, that's the only byproduct. And when you use that, if you bring it in, say a hot water heater, it comes in and the natural gas heats the water, there's no conversion. You make your house all electric, electricity has to be generated somewhere and it has to be transported there. And then your electric hot water heater, and so there's losses all the way along the system. So a northern climate, natural gas is a wonderful tool for us to have a clean environment and keep our homes warm. If you live down south, I won't argue with you there, but in a northern climate, it's important to natural gas is efficient and clean way to keep homes. I don't mean to get into the debate about climate change. I am just pointing out the obvious facts about natural gas. It's a business I work in. I don't have any interest in companies that own natural gas, but I've been trained in its production, its distribution, No, I know everything about it, and it's a servant that servant that's complementary to electricity, and in a northern climate, I think it's essential that we have an Oregon school district built a facility with no natural gas. How much money they spent on they had like 400 wells, and the money they spent on that, and then when it's cloudy, they're getting electricity that's coming from the Columbia power plant in Portage. It's a coal-fired plant, or Rockdale gas-fired plants. We have solar that's been added, but it is not anywhere near, and at night we don't have it. So I disagree with you on this point, Bill.
I think I understand what like all the herbs are saying. Like Bill, what were you like? What do you want?
I don't think we should subsidize development. I don't think we should pay for gas service. That should not be a TIF eligible expense, in my opinion. And I'll just make a few points. The multifamily building, the second one that's going up, we were just told is going to be heated and cooled with heat pumps for each unit. They're still using gas for the hot water, but it's also true that heat pump hot water systems are more efficient in terms of, they'll burn less gas if you use a heat pump water heater than if you push gas to somebody's house and use it to heat water. It's also true that in 2025, something like 95% of all new electrical generation across the entire planet has been some combination of solar and wind. So I think, going forward, battery technology is becoming more ubiquitous, cheaper. We've got our own solar field that's gonna have a 160 megawatt hour battery system that goes with it. Those will become more common in the future. I think it doesn't make sense to me to continue to put in brand new fossil fuel burning infrastructure and buildings in 2026 plus, and
But I don't think this would be going in a building. This is like, because that would be part of the developer agreement, I think.
Okay, but why would we put in a gas line if nobody's gonna use it?
But if the developer is gonna use it, because that's how they're building it.
Then I don't think we should pay for that. I would like to incentivize people to electrify rather than
But I think
remain
that's,
on
we could
fossil
use a
gas.
developer agreement to incentivize sustainability features through TID money, right? Like we can include that in the developer agreement. We could say, we're gonna provide funding so that you can.
Yeah, this document just identifies what eligible costs could be.
Right.
I don't think.
And I don't think this one should be in.
And that's fair. I appreciate that. I don't think in the time that I've been in this role, and Mike can probably attest to it, I don't believe that there's been any incentivization of gas line work. And I think to Alder Gerhardt's point that if a developer agreement were to come forward with some sort of incentive for something like gas service, which I think is quite unlikely, that obviously the council could move to strike that from that agreement.
I know what I kind of agree what you're saying, but I think we need to provide options. We need to provide options because maybe there is a development that they really need to have natural gas, instead of electric. Like what happens if cannot have electric, So we are gonna decide that we are not gonna build this development because of that, So provide options. And then at the end of the day, like Chad says, in the developer agreement is we can do whatever we want there. We can say no. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Who is Laura?
I'm just curious how practically that could be handled if we were to take that out, because I'm just curious how that would look from a billing standpoint, because if you're ripping up all the area to put in the sewer, you're already doing so much of the gas. Like, I'm just curious, where would you draw the line from if you're the developer coming to the city and asking for any incentives or the PAYGO? how do we determine what portion of that work that's going to happen regardless of if there's gas or not, just because there needs to be, if there's any sanitary sewer upgrades or anything like that? How do we draw that line so that, I'm struggling to figure out how that would look?
Well, I think, Mike, in most cases, we haven't typically incentivized infrastructure costs in most situations. There have been a few. I guess I can think of Ocala. We did incentivize street construction for connectivity
But they
purposes.
did that at our request.
Right, they did
Their
absolutely at our
project.
request. I think this is actually an interesting conversation, and we might need to look at this through the lens of the Common Council's perhaps desired interest on the single-family ownership project that is proposed by Gorman. And the way that's currently structured, at least preliminarily, is the city would be fronting all of the infrastructure costs on that. And I'm going to assume, and I know that can be dangerous, that in that particular project that Mr. Gorman is going to want gas as an option for that project. So I think if you're going to make a policy call like this, it's certainly your prerogative, but I think there's also a much larger picture at play here than, a TID project plan.
Administrator Breckman, so like, to Bill's point, what's the opportunity cost of not doing it? Between the city and the developer then?
So Bill, if Bill's will is.
Right.
What do we lose by doing that? Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what you lose in particular is depending on where the Gorman project goes. I know that we're not talking about that through this, but if you're setting a precedent with this project, you'll need to live with that precedent for future projects as well.
Why? We can't change them?
Well, you can, but developers don't tend to like to have the rules changed, for different projects, moving back and forth. That ends up being viewed as a bit of unfair play.
And also when they are developing the project, they need to know what are the rules, and what happens if they start developing a project and we're using gas and suddenly we say, no, we decided not to do this anymore. You know what I mean? So we have to be consistent with the message too.
I think it has to, I wouldn't advocate removing it just because I think this is kind of boilerplate language, and I don't know a scenario where it would be a problem, but I don't want to discover a scenario where it's a problem in the future when instead we can incentivize sustainability through incentives. Because that's what always occurs to me, like your questions are always great at council, and it's like, but if we want to require people to do this, we have to do something, and like we can't just tell people that they have to build a certain way, but we can offer incentives to make them build a certain way.
Or we need to offer more, we increase the incentive because building like that sometimes is more expensive for
Exactly. And so like if we do want to make a policy where we're incentivizing that through TID dollars, I think that's a great idea, and that's something we should discuss. But it's more of a carrot instead of a stick approach. So instead of
I'm talking about removing a carrot.
Yeah, no, I oppose to remove this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I could, yeah, and like the Gorman project as an example, trying to build affordable housing on a larger scale, you add certain types of sustainability features, and you're talking about an increase in cost. And it's not the only consideration, but it's a consideration. And if the city wants to invest additional money in making it all electric, we can do that. But it's just something that you have to balance the costs and the cost with it. And I don't want to make that call right here in this moment.
It is most certainly true that single-family homes have a lot more externalities than multifamily or,
And that was my point. Like, why does it, if the development isn't the same, why do the characteristics or the criteria of the building have to remain the same? Like, if we're not doing a project like Gorman, and like a similar thing comes and it's something completely different.
But this is more like a generic template language for this type of, for this. Do you know what I mean? So this is like, if we, I think this is like the generic where we include everything, and then when we do the development agreement, it's when we decide really what we are gonna incentivize there. Do you know what I mean? So
I'll say I'm not opposed to Bill's suggestion, because if it's implemented here, then maybe that'll lead us to identify the inconsistencies, and Bill's very observant and spots out things before all of us, so he'd probably spot those in future developments, and it might lead to some change versus maybe trying to do a mass overhaul or project of things that we don't even know what's what.
And literally, I was just asking like my questions to like understand both sides, or like what would we be gaining or losing from doing one or the other. So when I asked the opportunity cost to like what Alder Herb said, like it wasn't leaning one way or the other, but just to kind of understand like that's not my field of expertise.
But there is a scenario by which you get rid of that and then the Gorman project falls through because you can't put a gas line in.
Exactly.
I'm like, that literally is a scenario. So like, and I don't know that that's what will happen, and I hope that that's not what will happen, but that's a true scenario where you lose 100 single-family homes because we cannot pay for the infrastructure for gas, and that's the only option. So there is a scenario where a whole project falls through because of this. Like, it's true.
I think this is a great idea for an individual project, like that comes after this TIF agreement is approved, and not necessarily for the TIF agreement as a whole. Like that we then are requiring every single project that might be in front of us to abide by, which is kind of the same thing that you're saying, which is like, if you make this the blanket scenario, then every project that we have not foreseen or that we can't even imagine right now that might come forward in the future is now forced to abide by it. And I think it is a great goal, and it's a great, I think that someday we will be there. I don't think we are there yet. Like, I don't think we're there yet as a society that we can like just stop providing gas service to everyone and have it work.
Okay, Logan, and we're close.
I was just gonna see if we could ask Jeff, since he's here and been waiting so patiently, are we able to get a sense of if any of the retail businesses have had conversations with you about whether gas service is something they would like, they wouldn't like? I'm just curious, because we have a sense from Corey Frank from the Jamestown Corey Apartments. I'm just kind of curious, are we having a conversation that derails to Alder Gerhardt's point, would this derail the entire appetite of the retail tenants?
But sorry, just to interrupt, the development agreement is for extraordinary costs, and I don't think a gas line would be considered an extraordinary cost. So it wouldn't be a developer incentive in this case, I don't think, right? I don't think it would never qualify because it's not, yeah, it wouldn't be an extraordinary cost.
Okay.
So, and the developers specifically are for above and beyond costs that they cannot afford to
But
do a project
if
budget.
you did, it would be a limitation that, you know, we're competing with different markets. If they can go to, if the grocery store we all want can go to Nashville and do a gas line and have the same systems that they have in 500 stores, or they can go to Madison or Fitchburg and they have to do this unique, they're gonna go to Nashville. That's just how it is. They're gonna go and you will not get them. And it's the same with the others. And that could evolve over time, but we are not there. And these people are very fussy, very particular on how they run their stores. It's very specific. They don't like anything different.
It's like the McDonald's.
Yeah, that was my point, is how regimented the franchises are. We saw that with Chick-fil-A, we've seen it with McDonald's, everything else. As I said before, this whole thing kind of hinges on one thing for me, and if that, a lack of gas service were to derail it, I can't support that either, because again, I think this whole thing for me hinges on that one business that shall not be named.
All right, I have planted a seed.
Okay. I love the question. I think, Bill, this is more like a big policy decision.
Yes, it is, and I was just gonna suggest, let's table this for now, and with a promise that we're gonna have a discussion at some point, either in a.
So we are having a TID presentation at the end of June. at
Okay,
Cal.
yeah.
So we could maybe have another short conversation about that as well.
It's always bothered me that, you know, we're okay with subsidizing gas, but there is zero mention of any renewables whatsoever as TIF eligible expenses.
Like what, like solar?
Solar,
Yeah, it could be, but this is, we need to be, if we are going that route, we need to be sure that we are gonna open our pockets with more
Yes.
money.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
this is the reality because we
Correct.
save cost a lot of money.
Yep, and we actually encourage that in our discussions with developers, that
okay, but
sustainability.
there's no
those
mention of it in
things-
the document. If
But
it's,
we
if
can
it's,
add solar here.
you know, if it's not in the document, it's not in people's faces, they're not gonna think about it as hard, right?
It's
Just like
because-
the multi-use
it's because
paths.
Legally, it's a development incentive. Anything you pay that the way the TID statutes are written, it's written in the voice of how the city expends funds. So if the city is not the one installing any sustainability features, it's the developer that's doing it. And the city wants to incentivize that as an extraordinary cost. The expense is a development incentive. That's the expense.
And that's under the
And
development.
that's in the development incentive section of the project plan.
That one is
That's-
what we're gonna discuss in June.
Because all, the rest of those languages, whether it's streets or anything in there, it's all written, the city shall. It's, if the city expends those funds, it's an eligible expense. If the developer expends money on streets, renewable energy, what have you, and the city is going to reimburse some of those costs and the developer's paying for it, it's a development incentive. It's not a street improvement, it's not a energy improvement, because the city is not expending the money on those improvements, the developer is. So that's why it's not written that way in a project plans, because if anything the developer pays for and the city reimburses is a development incentive.
Okay, so is that why we saw for both the original and the amendment that there's like $20 million in generic?
Yeah, gives you more
development incentives?
flexibility that way. And then how you apply that development incentive is all stipulated in the development agreement.
Which is subject to council approval.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
Was
Bicycle share stations.
second.
Okay, so all those in favor of the resolution are
The
the amendment.
To the amendment.
Oh, all those in favor of the amendment, okay. Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
Aye.
I am coming. Who opposed?
No.
He said aye.
Oh. Sorry, Jason. Okay, so, all those in favor of the resolution R 10826 as amended, say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? The motion carried. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Greg, for the presentation. So next is, we are in announcement. So tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock is the,
Village groundbreaking.
the Dementia Village groundbreaking at 10 o'clock in the morning. Everyone is invited. So next Common Council meeting is May 26, 2026. Next committee of the whole meeting is May 27. And what are the topics? I saw the agenda. But
Yeah, we're talking about, it's a CIP presentation, and
Yeah.
then we're gonna have a presentation on the City Hall renovation.
City Hall renovation. Okay, good. Okay. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
It is adjourned at 7:09.
Thank you.